This week on The Gadget Show.
Jason and I test two of the best high-def camcorders you can buy under some pretty exhilarating conditions. There's leather, speed, fear, and anger.
Why does anyone do it, though?
I don't know, but that's not...
I don't question it.
And we'll tell you exactly what camcorder you need to buy.
Also this week, Jon and wildlife photographer Chris Packham go in search of big and little game to test portable photo printers.
Welcome to The Gadget Show. Now, this week is all about putting your life into glorious high definition, as Jason and I try to find the best high-def camcorder that you can buy.
The next generation of high definition has arrived in cameras that the likes of you, me and the guy that lives opposite Susie's bathroom window can afford.
Now, they all say that they are the best camera on the market, but which one should you buy?
Oh, that's easy. So it's the Sony HDR SR7. It records to what I think is the only format worth considering in a high-def camcorder, a hard drive. 60 gig of hard drive, to be precise, which can hold an amazing 8 hours of best quality video. Because it uses a hard drive, it's very neat and very small, but packs a 10 times optical zoom and records in 5.1 Dolby surround sound. So there you have it, Sony's HDR SR7 is the only high-def camcorder worth buying. Blimey, that was an easy show, Suze. Do you want to pop out for a quick one? I mean, a drink, obviously.
Jason, ladies and gentlemen, is trying to be humorous, and I think being slightly blinkered in his approach to high-def. That's why I think that this Hitachi DZ-BD7 is the best high-definition camcorder that you can buy. This camera records to Blu-ray discs, but the camera's real trick is that it also packs a 30 gig hard drive, meaning you can record 4 hours of high-def to hard drive, then internally edit out the wobbly rubbish stuff that you didn't mean to shoot before saving the best bits to a Blu-ray disc. Genius.
So, as is the custom here on The Gadget Show, whenever we've got a dispute, we set up a challenge to find out which is the best high-def camcorder money can buy, my hard drive-based Sony
or my Hitachi Blu-ray.
Our first test was about how easy they are to use. This is Mallory Park Racing Circuit. We were here for what would be one of our most exhilarating challenges ever, to test our HD camcorders while riding on these.
These beasts can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. And we'd been set the challenge of riding pillion and shooting video at the same time. A great test of just how easy to use our camcorders were, but not something you should ever try on a public road.
It was vital that these camcorders were easy to hold, with all the buttons and controls easily accessible.
The only thing I would say, it's so light, it's almost plasticky.
The Sonys obviously have been in this game a long time and they've kind of perfected this system, you know.
Yeah.
I've had several Sony camcorders in my time and I do feel at home with this.
My time on racetracks has taught me that one misjudged corner can spell disaster. We were going to have to hang on for dear life. This'll be fun. This was it. Leathers on, helmet secured. Time to lay some rubber.
3, 2, 1.
Hang on, wait.
Go!
Remember, this test was all about finding out how easy to use the camcorders are.
Woohoo! Yay! We'd done 2 laps before I even managed to speak. It's not easy presenting while straddling a slippery piece of leather at 130 miles an hour. And the Hitachi wasn't helping me test it. The flip-out monitor kept flipping shut. Not surprising, I guess, at these speeds. The screen's flipped in. Now I've got no idea what I'm recording. There it goes.
Meanwhile, I kept knocking my Sony into standby and tried using the touchscreen with the wind screeching past your ear on a racetrack. Not a chance.
Your touchscreen in a situation like this is completely useless.
I have to say the buttons on my Sony are very small and rather fiddly, but I was getting some awesome footage.
My footage was looking good too, but I was also getting annoyed with my Hitachi's controls. The zoom control's just too sensitive. I keep on hitting it by mistake. Oh!
The Sony felt really comfortable to hold. Once I got used to where the controls were, I started to enjoy the ride.
This little camera's really good for holding down low on the corners.
I like the way that it feels. It's very light and it fits nicely into my hand. I can use the functions one-handed.
Give it some!
a great way of testing the usability of these cameras, because let's be honest, when you've got a camcorder at a wedding or a kid's party, or if you're doing some sports, you don't want to be faffing around with two hands, do you? So that was a perfect test.
Yeah, and while, you know, the controls are evolved on my camera, I mean, they're in the right position, I still found myself knocking them at various points, and not necessarily when we were speeding down the straights either.
For me, you saw on that film their problem there. Just have a look at this. The zoom on my camera is just so feather-like and tiny that I kept zooming by mistake.
The equivalent frustration for me on the Sony was the touchscreen. It's too small to be useful.
But in terms of actually being able to use them with one hand, they were both pretty good, weren't they?
Yeah, and actually, and this is something that you probably won't think about if you're going to buy one of these things, very well balanced. I'd say if you're going to buy anything like this, always put it in your hand and see if it's the right balance, and this felt good.
Now, I want to talk to you about portable photo printers. Things like this. They're hugely popular, and I can see why. They're very compact, about the size of a small lunchbox. They print 6x4 prints, the most popular size. And they're entirely self-contained. You can shove your memory card in out of the camera and look at the pictures on the screen and print them out without any help from a computer whatsoever. And some of them can also run on batteries, so you can go to an event and print out pictures for people on the spot. But as ever, the question is, which one's best? So I decided to do some testing. I was off to Longleat Safari Park, and I'd brought TV presenter and Wildlife Photography of the Year winner, Chris Packham, along for the ride. If anyone has a keen eye for what makes a good print, it's him.
I like prints, they're tangible. I print and give them to my mum more than anything, to be quite honest with you. You know, she likes to see where I've been and what I've been doing.
On test were 3 of the most high-tech portable printers on the market. All I needed now were 3 really wild snaps to test them with. First, we hit the lake to test the HP PhotoSmart A626. Like all our printers, it has an optional battery pack, which means you can print your snaps anywhere, anytime. As I was on feeding duty, it was my job to encourage these Californian sea lions to pose for the camera.
No, just a little bit further away, John, about another half a metre out, that pool.
Okay. How do you tell a female from a male?
Well, they're better looking.
All right.
It's that simple.
So, I knew our snaps would be good, but what about the prints? So, the card goes in there, and it should display everything on this touchscreen. The 4.8-inch colour touchscreen is a notable feature of the HP. It's also lightweight at under 1.5 kilos and prints onto 3 different sizes of photo paper. Presumably just hit print.
OK, let's try it.
It's 1 minute 35, it should take.
Oh, there we are.
Gosh, it certainly
What do we
stretched
think?
out.
Well, look, you can see the food disappearing down its mouth. So I
Yeah.
think the photos is sharp, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, what do you think, John? I think it's a little bit muddy, to be honest with you.
That was my first impression as it came out. It looks a bit sort of grey in colour.
This printer also offers more than 200 creative options for things like captioning your snaps and creating your own greetings cards. But with Chris unconvinced,
It's a bit disappointing.
it was time to get up close and personal with some of Longleat's more mischievous residents, the meerkats. Our next printer, the Canon Selfie ES2, weighs in at just under 2 kilograms, prints 2 different paper sizes and features a 2.5-inch screen. Would this one print any better?
There's one up there that's a bit further away, John, and
Yep.
I'm looking at him through the foliage, and I'm able to use that as a sort of filter, a green wash across it.
Yeah. It's rare to get so close to these critters, so I couldn't resist taking a few shots myself.
Always looking in the wrong direction, actually.
The card slots are in the bottom, it slips straight in. Screen pops up. I like that screen. This is quite easy to navigate through. I mean,
It
even though
is,
you've got
actually,
hundreds
yeah.
of pictures on a card.
It is.
Let's go print.
Oh, there we are. You can see just about the meerkats coming through, but he's all yellow.
The Canon features a printing process called dye sublimation, which lays the colours on the print one after the other. That should be then the finished item. Is that what you had in mind?
That's
it
what
looks
I had
pretty
in
good to
mind
me. It's
photographically.
very good, actually.
It's pin sharp, but do you know what? It's not very punchy.
No,
What do you think?
again,
I think it could be just a little bit more guts in there to separate him a little bit more from the background. And I was hoping for a bit better.
For our last printer, we decided to off-road and meet some of the larger and fiercer inhabitants of Longleat. We took with us the Epson PictureMate 290. At 3 kilograms, it was our heaviest portable printer, but packed with the most hardware. It features a 3.6-inch screen, Bluetooth, and even a CD burner.
This rich, warm sunlight here brings out their colours fabulously.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Oh, hello. One nibbling a windscreen wiper behind you.
They're either killing things, eating things, mating, or resting. And the first 3 don't take too long. That's the one, hopefully.
Right.
Nice bit of fresh air, John.
Yes,
We couldn't have had that 3 minutes ago.
The crystal clear LCD display makes the Epson easy to navigate. And despite the fact it only prints 1 picture size, it did one in just over 30 seconds, the fastest of the 3.
Now, what do you think? Actually, I'm pretty impressed with that, to be honest with you.
Yes.
That's pretty sharp, and the colours, I'd say, were pretty true. Look, it's got good detail in the shadow. The highlight's not too burned out.
I'm quite impressed with
I'm
this.
trying to find a fault with it, really, to not give it 10 out of 10.
And thanks to the built-in Bluetooth, I could print directly from my camera phone. Now, the only way to truly determine which printer produces the best prints was to compare the results of all 3 on Chris's favourite print of the day.
Without a doubt, for me, it's the Epson that is definitely the winner.
I agree.
Epson, a lion among printers.
You can tell he's a television presenter, can't you?
Yes, and a very good photographer.
Yes,
that
he
is
is.
really a superb picture, isn't it?
Fantastic. Now,
Yeah.
enough about the lovely Chris
Yeah.
Peckham. Let's get to G ratings. Let's start with what you thought was in 3rd place.
I think the HP's in 3rd place, and I'd only give it 2 Gs because the pictures were just sort of very grey. Even though it's got this lovely touchscreen, it doesn't make up for that.
OK.
Canon, also 2 Gs. The pictures were hardly any better, and the supplied paper cartridges, they have postcard printing on the back, and you have to tear off the ends, which is a bit of a fiddle, really.
OK, and the clear winner was obviously the Epson.
Absolutely, the print's fantastic. I'd give it 5 Gs.
5?
Yes.
That's a rarity.
Because, as Chris said, it's very hard to think of a way to improve on it. And if you don't want one that's quite so heavy, there's one at half the price without the CD drive and the Bluetooth. So it's a winner there as well.
The Epson, the runaway winner.
Yeah.
Now it's time to return to this week's challenge, in which Jason and I are trying to decide which is the best high-definition camcorder you can buy. Now, this next test isn't actually about the high-definition camcorders themselves. We're going to put these through their paces a little bit later on in the show. In this test, we wanted to look at high-definition editing software.
Yeah, and this next test is absolutely crucial because if anything is going to bring your home computer to its knees, it's editing high-definition footage.
Our high-definition editing task was to create a short film of our bike ride around Mallory Park racetrack.
We last tested editing software in the spring and decided the best around was the free iMovie software on an Apple Mac. So this time, I stuck with the MacBook laptop and the latest version of the editing software. This is a new HD version of iMovie. I'm just intrigued to see how it handles the much bigger files that obviously come with editing high definition.
I've gone for a PC-based HD editing package that's been getting rave reviews, Pinnacle Studio Plus version 11. I'd loaded it onto a very high-spec Sony Vaio laptop, which should have easily been capable of handling HD footage. With a Blu-ray drive, it's also capable of importing my HD video at full res.
Like Suzi's, my iMovie software could import my footage at high quality, direct from the camcorder's hard drive via a USB cable.
For me, importing was a cinch. The Pinnacle Plus software had recognised my footage from the Blu-ray disc and was showing the files as handy little clips.
So I've just chosen those, click import. So far, so good.
I had a slightly more problematic time importing, with iMovie totally locking up at one point, but after a reboot, it all worked perfectly. But obviously, you know, with new technology, sometimes things are a bit glitchy, and I've got all my clips up here now.
My clips were all imported too, but I had a problem.
Well, it's... Well, it looks
Sounds
like
good.
It sounds good, but it doesn't look good.
Any footage I tried to play juddered appallingly, making it almost unwatchable. And here's the problem. HD footage contains so much more information than standard definition footage, about 4 times as much.
Can this cope with the quality of the footage that we actually shot? And clearly, at the moment, the answer is not really.
What I couldn't tell was if the problem was with the computer or the software I was using, or both.
Amazingly, my MacBook was coping with my footage with no problems whatsoever. This is great.
although I was having a few problems getting to grips with iMovie's new thumbnail interface.
Despite very juddery footage, I ploughed on, and I was finding the Pinnacle's interface very user-friendly.
Now this is great for me because it uses the classic timeline view. So let's say I'm going to take this clip, for example, left-click, drag it down onto my timeline, drop it in, there it is, right there, and then I can edit from here.
With our edits complete, we had to add a couple of video effects to our sequences just to see how much complexity the software and the machines could handle.
There's the cube. Real time, no rendering required. That's very impressive, actually.
And I'm sorry to sound like a stuck record, but applying effects in iMovie was very, very easy. And I had my high-def sequences finished in under an hour.
And I couldn't finish. I couldn't actually test any of the effects on offer in Pinnacle because my pictures were still not playing properly, and that prevented me from adding any effects. Me, my massive laptop and my Pinnacle editing software had been beaten by an entry-level Mac and some free software.
You know, I'm quite surprised that I struggled in that task because all the reviews that I read of that editing software were really, really good. And that's why I chose this laptop, because it was supposed to fit the system requirements. I mean, it should have worked, and it didn't.
It is a no-brainer. If it says it should fit the spec, then it should work, shouldn't it? Again, I'm really impressed with the entry-level MacBook. I mean, you know, for a machine that you'll get change out of £1,000 for, to once again be successful in an editing challenge on the Gadget Show, I think is phenomenal.
So, if you do want to edit any high-def footage at home, we have to recommend the Mac.
I agree. Anyway, our high-definition challenge continues later in the programme when we're going to be getting tough with our cameras. We're going to be looking at functionality, things like image stabilisation, panning, zooming, that sort of thing, with a terrifying visit to a theme park. Next, though, it's time for the focus group.
Each week on the focus group, John, Jason and I pick the most interesting gadgets we can in a particular category and present them to our focus group. And then in a particularly unscientific piece of market research, they tell us which one they like the best. This week, our group is made up of DJs and musicians because we are testing music gadgets.
We're going to start with a musical instrument, or it doesn't look like a musical instrument, it actually looks like a prop from Minority Report. But that, for me, is part of the beauty of this thing called the Tenorion. Get it going by pressing the buttons on the screen. You've got 16 different layers, like in Photoshop, you're just layering it up. And each layer that you add, you obviously build your song in there. I have actually loaded a track in here, which I'll just attempt to try and find. I've called it Jace. Well, here we go. All right. Not too bad for a complete novice, yeah? And this track, this floor stomper took me about, I'd say about 10 minutes to put together. Yes. Ooh, it's got a sound coming out of it.
Them buttons, you know, they're really fiddly to play with.
It's cool to play with, but I don't know how, in a set, I don't know how I'd incorporate really the sounds.
Difficult.
Yeah.
You need to read the manual and sit down and know exactly what you're doing with it.
It sounds like my daughter on her organ.
Now, if you ever tried to record sound on a computer, you'll know how horribly disappointing it can be because the microphone in the computer's rubbish, the preamplifier in the computer's probably rubbish unless you've got a really good sound card, so you plug in an external preamplifier and that's rubbish, you plug in a microphone and that's rubbish, and you can't get the right balance, so if you're singing along to an instrument, it's all hopeless. And in fact, the whole generation of British musicians is remaining quiet and silent in their bedrooms because computer sound is so rubbish. But here, there's something that could make that a bit better. It's the world's first microphone, preamplifier, and mixer, all in one, that just plugs into the USB socket of your computer and you can play along to your guitar and it's all recorded pretty well. And I'm going to demonstrate that. Thankfully not myself, but with the very lovely Dan here, who's going to try it out.
You are the reason the my smiles are decreasing, your touch not quite right. Should we see how that did?
Right.
Good. We should just be able to hit play.
In theory.
You are the reason my smiles are decreasing.
I was surprised by the guitar because I thought you'd have an instrument line straight in, but also you'd get a bit of bleed onto the microphone as well. But in fact, it's quite a nice mellow sounding.
Not in a soundproof studio with how many, 10, 12 people stood around. There's no background sound, no hiss.
That is a heavy piece of kit.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, superstar DJs, I today have got the pacemaker for you. Just imagine your decks, your mixing desk, and all your music in your hand. For the first time, this is going to allow you to have a fantastic interaction with your music on the move. This is the guy that invented it. This is Jonas. I couldn't think of anybody better to demonstrate. So there's two channels, basically, that are replicating the turntables. So let's hear the first channel. So first of all, bending the pitch. Very easy to do. Okay, then of course, crossfading. Okay, so easy to do. It also matches your beats. Let's have a bit more treble.
Wicked.
Bit mid-bass. Now then, who wants to have a go?
It's like really just like an iPod, but being able to mix. So I can see it being massive. Knocking a few mixes together, what you want to play on an evening, or even just sharing it with your friends.
It'd be good for kind of wedding DJs, a good way that they can store and transport all their tunes and sounds.
OK, it's time to vote, and quite literally, I want you to vote for your favourite with your hands, OK? Because you can only take one of these back with you today, the Tenori-on sequencer. No! Not a problem. We're going to move swiftly on to the total recording solution that is the Samson G-Track. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good result. OK, and if you want to vote for Suzi's pacemaker, put your hands up high. 4 or 5.
Whatever,
do it again.
it's not enough.
It's not enough,
no,
is it?
It's not
it doesn't
enough.
matter. We've got a clear winner. It's Jon's Samson G-Track.
Yes. Time to return to this week's challenge, where Jason and I are trying to decide which is the best high-definition camcorder you could buy.
Is it my hard disk-based Sony or Suzi's Blu-ray-based Hitachi? Now, you might remember earlier in the programme, we already tested their usability on the back of extremely fast motorbikes, but now it's all about functionality.
Yeah, we really wanted to test how good they are in low light, their image stabilisation, and also how good they are at taking stills photos. So...
obviously, we went to a fun fair.
Welcome to Drayton Manor Park, home to some of Britain's scariest rides. In the height of summer, it's packed with tourists who pay to come and scream their guts out.
In the winter, it's closed, except when the Gadget show comes to town. Our challenge was simple, to test the functionality of the cameras.
From our experience on the back of the bikes, we knew they were pretty easy to use, but when you're spending hundreds of pounds on a camcorder, you want a lot of functions as well, and it's those functions we were just about to test.
Do you know the words fun and fair, as in fun fair? They just don't go together for me.
Why not? Only presidents and weird pop stars get to do this. We've got a whole amusement park to ourselves. We can go on any ride we like.
Can we?
Yes!
Oh, brilliant. OK.
First up, we wanted to test the cameras in a very low-light condition. For this, I headed straight for the haunted house, where I knew it would be practically pitch black.
Fantastic.
Nearly all Sony camcorders have a night shot function, using an infrared light to provide illumination for a night vision lens. The camera then automatically slows the shutter speed to increase picture brightness. This is a brilliant function for being able to shoot without a normal light source. And though the haunted house was often completely dark, within about 20 feet this little camera was showing plenty of detail.
Unlike the Sony, my Hitachi didn't have an infrared night vision function, but you're supposed to be able to use the LCD screen as a light. I wasn't very impressed though. It only lights stuff that's less than a metre away, and in the haunted house, that meant I couldn't see a thing.
I can't tell you what that is because I can't see it.
Time for the stills test now.
Watch out, miniature train. That's OK. And I'm thinking something like Maelstrom.
Maelstrom is a massive swing that reaches 22.5 metres in height and spins at the same time.
Hopefully, if it doesn't go too fast, I can try and get some nice little steady shots.
It was only as I got strapped in and saw the wicked smile on the ride operator's face that I began to have my doubts.
And we're not going to go for too long, yeah? Not for too long, yeah?
Like a good Gadget tester, as soon as the ride began, I started talking about my camcorder.
You're recording video at the same time. Now, I don't know how that affects the ability of this camera.
But that didn't last for long.
Oh. This is appalling. Stop it! Stop it!
I'd given up on the photography idea. That was the least of my worries.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop! Anyone that goes on that actually pays money to go on that, is clinically insane. That was just terrifying. I feel sick.
I don't think I took one photograph the whole time. In fact, I don't think I opened my eyes. You know, we criticise China, Iran, you know. Not Drayton Manor. These guys are irresponsible. We should send some UN forces in here to rescue the poor kids they're going to put on Maelstrom this summer. You might sense that I was not happy, but I still had to do my stills test. Guys, hi guys. This isn't like Maelstrom, is it? Having been assured that the Drunken Barrels was a gentle ride, I selected my barrel. I've done my physics, all right? I'm not stupid. I understand that by going on the one on the inside, it won't be as hell-raising as the one on the outside. What? Are you kidding me? Thank you.
Meanwhile, for my stills test, I headed over to the pirate ship.
Hello. Is it bad?
No, it's not bad.
OK, you say that now.
Recording to an SD card, the Sony takes stills up to 6.1 megapixels, 4.6 if it's filming at the same time. I was impressed. They were crystal clear with excellent definition.
Oh, God.
Meanwhile, I was less pleased. The Hitachi records 4.3 megapixel stills to an SD card, but it can't take photos while filming. You have to switch modes. Very disappointing in a modern camcorder.
I was ready for the final test, image stabilisation, and thought I'd found the perfect ride. G-force! But Suzi was there already. Not surprisingly, she'd thought of it too. It looks fast and it looks high, so ideal for the test. Unfortunately, I was still a nervous wreck from Maelstrom.
Why does anyone do it, though? I don't know, but that's not... I don't question it.
But after a quiet word from the producer, I agreed, reluctantly.
Bring it on. Let's do it.
I'd been poo-pooing fun fairs earlier, but now I was loving it. Woo!
So how would our camcorders perform?
Oh, my God! Oh!
I expected the Sony to be good. It uses optical image stabilisation, a cutting-edge technique which doesn't degrade the image.
Whereas my Hitachi uses electronic stabilisation. That means the changes are made digitally, so there's a potential for quality loss.
I hate this! And the Sony does stand out. The image is incredibly steady. If this is the future of video, bring it on.
Oh, I was so relieved to get that whole challenge over. But I tell you what, I was very impressed with the image stabilisation of the Sony. It was truly remarkable. Can we just demonstrate it on these big TVs?
Yeah, because obviously you're not going to be taking it on the roller coaster
you're
all
not.
the time. It's
not
something more real life.
It's not a situation that most people are going to find themselves in, but you will find yourself in a situation like this, where you've got a subject who, as we call it in the TV trade, is on the end of the lens.
Now, John, what can you see?
I can see that Jason's shot's looking very smooth, but yours is trembling about rather a lot.
Yeah, I know. I'm very disappointed. I think it's because it's a digital stabilisation, so it's having to process the information and zoom in, and it's definitely losing quality, isn't it?
Yeah, and the Sony has an optical stabilisation, so that's definitely the reason why it's a better experience. But I think just in terms of functionality in general, this camera performed best.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. We can see the image stabilisation was better. You had the night vision, and also you can take stills on that camera while you're filming, which is great, and you can't do that on the Hitachi.
But we haven't finished with them yet. If you're in the market for a high-definition camcorder, you're going to love the final part to this week's challenge, when, in order to test the image quality of both cameras, we get some footage from each and try and find the biggest screens in London to put them on.
Now, I want to talk to you about DAB radios. They've been around for years, since the mid-90s, in fact, when digital audio broadcasting first started. But I've never been able to generate the enthusiasm for them that I have for other digital electronic devices. For a start, they're too power-hungry to be truly portable. Coverage has been patchy, they don't sound that great, and they've always been considerably more expensive than the dirt-cheap FM radios we've been listening to for years. But DAB radios are getting cheaper and better all the time, and I decided to test 3 of the best examples you can get for under 60 quid.
The first radio we'll be looking at is the Bush TR-82. Its retro styling is based on their classic 1959 model, but its insides have been brought bang up to date. Pure are one of the most respected DAB radio manufacturers, and this is their entry-level model, the Pure 1. Roberts is never a name to be underestimated in the radio field, and this is one of their latest budget offerings, the Gemini 46. To find out if they're any good, I'm going to spend the whole day with them here at home. I'll start in the kitchen, where I'll check out the features of each radio while having a spot of breakfast.
Now, none of these radios have the sort of features you might get on more expensive DAB radios, such as the ability to pause and rewind live radio, recording, or an electronic program guide. But are they still good value for money?
We'll start with the Bush.
Now, as well as DAB, the Bush has a wide range of conventional wave bands, medium wave, long wave, and FM. Though if you're listening on medium and long wave, you might well be disappointed by the reception. The selectivity between stations on long wave is particularly bad.
When you switch over to DAB, you have to use a separate set of controls, which are rather fiddly. And even on digital, the reception still isn't brilliant. I found when I moved around the house, the signal sometimes dropped in and out.
Setting the Pure One up, like all these radios, is very simple. Switch it on for the first time and it auto-tunes automatically. The Pure has FM, RDS, as well as DAB, and wherever I went in the house, I found reception was brilliant.
This large central knob controls the whole radio, and though it takes a bit of getting used to, it does work very well. One of my favourite features is the scan text one. You can take control of the scrolling text and read it at your own pace, so you no longer have to wait around for the text to scroll through.
There's a range to choose from, so if you're in year 9 or 11...
The reception on the Roberts was excellent, both on DAB and FM. It has a very large, clear display, although it doesn't tell you quite as much as the Pure.
Press this info button, though, and you can easily get information for things like program type, signal strength, and bit rate. And these large rubbery knobs for volume and tone help make the radio very easy to use.
It looks like the Pure is in the lead so far, but how will it fare in my tests for sound quality and battery life? Right then, time for my morning's bathroom activities. I'll check out the sound quality of the radios while I'm in here.
Around the world on satellite and the internet.
Now, this Bush is really loud, but it's also rather harsh and unrefined. I've got a feeling there's a cheap speaker lurking behind that funky retro design.
And things get worse if you're listening to it on the mains. Plug it in and a gentle humming noise will slowly but surely ruin your listening pleasure.
The Pure One isn't as loud as the Bush, but it does have a nice, round, refined sound.
First digit on the hind foot of a mammal, bird, reptile or amphibian.
I found the Roberts to have the best sound quality of the three. Not too loud, but very precise.
Like all the radios, the Roberts is only mono through the speaker, but plug in your headphones and you can listen in stereo. The Pure and the Bush both run on size C batteries, 6 of them. And on the Pure, there's the option of this charge pack, which fits inside the radio, so there's no need for a separate charger, but it is rather expensive. The Roberts, though, takes a different route. It runs on the larger size D batteries, 4 of them. So, which one will last the longest?
I'm going to test the battery life of the radios while pottering round the garden. In my experience, DAB radios don't last very long at all running on batteries, so this will determine if DAB technology has really improved.
I've been out here in the garden now, amusing myself for, well, just over 2 hours, which in the past would be enough to drain a set of batteries in a DAB radio, but all 3 of these are still going strong. Looks like this test could take days.
It was actually nearly 30 hours before the Bush died. The Pure was next to go at 37 hours, but the Roberts played for a frankly astonishing 85 hours.
John, a splendid array of DAB radios. Let's get straight to G ratings.
Yes, well, I think the Bush is in bottom place with just 2 Gs, because though it's pretty loud, it's also just a bit crude.
OK, right, so that's in last place. What about second?
Well, I've been having sleepless nights about the other 2 because they're both really very good and are vast improvements for DAB radios, but one, I think, ultimately is just better than the other. And I'd give the Pure 3 Gs in middle position because in spite of all its extra sort of little technical features, I don't think it's quite as good as the Roberts, which I'd give 4 Gs to because it just sounds that bit better. The batteries last a lot longer and I think it would transform the way I would use a digital radio.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Good, you'll be able to go to sleep tonight.
Yes. Listening to the radio.
Yes.
Welcome back. It's time to head off to the streets of Old London town for the final parts of our high-definition camcorder challenge.
We'd already tested usability, and I think it's fair to say they both came out pretty well in that.
Absolutely.
Then we tested functionality.
And my Sony was the clear winner.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. But which of our high-def camcorders would deliver the best picture quality?
To find out, we had just one afternoon on the streets of London to find the biggest screens we could lay our hands on and play some footage from our high-definition cameras.
The beauty of high-definition video is that it is high definition, with 4 times more detail than the standard TV pictures you're watching right now. And that means the picture can be blown up much, much bigger than conventional video without it degrading. And it was that we wanted to test by finding London's biggest screens.
Taxi!
Immediately, I headed off to Oxford Street and the big department stores.
And I headed for Tottenham Court Road, a multimedia haven packed with screens.
No.
All I needed was to find one that measured up.
It's big, it's big. It's not big enough.
I decided to go upmarket into the TV department of John Lewis, where I found a telly to dwarf the 40 and 50-inch screens on display, the 103-inch Panasonic Plasma, the largest TV in the world.
I had realised that the biggest screen didn't have to be a plasma or an LCD, and went looking for a digital projector to play my high-def footage.
There we go, look at that. There it is.
And we should... Yes, here it is. There we go, playing our footage on the largest television screen in the world. Jace, it's Susie.
Hello, Miss Perry.
Hi, can you just tell me what size you're watching your footage on?
65 inches, beat that.
I'm watching my footage on 103 inches of glorious plasma TV screen.
That's absolutely incredible. Suze, would you hold on a minute? Quick, pick the laptop up, I've got an idea. Follow me, over here. Hey, now that's big. Here we go. Right, top of that, yeah? There's the edge of the image, there, see it? 130 inches. Are you ready for this? 130 inches.
Oh, it's got to be bigger, it's got to be bigger, and it's got to be better.
That was it. He'd thrown down the gauntlet. I had to find something so big and impressive, there'd be no way that he could win.
I feel really stressed. I feel really panicky because I just can't think of an idea.
If I was to win, I needed a massive, top-quality screen.
No. I've got it. The Mortimer. I used to go here in my youth. It's got a massive sports screen. What?
That got me thinking. Sports? Of course.
You know what? I think I've got it. Wembley!
I was still on Oxford Street and completely lost for ideas.
Not really sure where to go.
I randomly headed down Regent Street and promptly had a brainwave.
I know. Piccadilly Circus is down there. Now, can I get my footage on that screen?
There've been screens in Piccadilly Circus for years, but this one is brand new. It measures 9 by 5 metres, cost a fortune, and with 362,880 pixels, it boasts the highest resolution of any screen ever in Piccadilly Circus.
It was getting late. By the time I'd finished negotiating with Wembley's head honchos, there was no time to lose. I had to find the screens to see just how impressive they were.
Back at Piccadilly Circus, I contacted the LG press office to ask if I could use their screen.
I just wonder whether there's any way I could get my footage put through. Would that be... Fantastic!
Wembley's got 2 massive screens, each the size of 600 domestic TV sets.
OK, I think I'm ready. Hi, Susie, how you doing?
Yeah, really great. I'm really excited.
Where are you?
Piccadilly Circus! Where are you?
Do you know what? I think I'm possibly in the only place in Britain that could trump you, Susie.
Where?
I'm in the home of football, Wembley Stadium.
Wembley Stadium!
And it is just breathtaking. But listen, we've got a show to put on, Susie. Are you ready to go? Can we do it together?
Yeah, ready?
Here we go.
3,
2,
1, go! Yes!
Yeah! Susie, you're on at Wembley as well.
Oh, not only did you get one screen bigger than me, but two either end of Wembley Stadium. It looked fantastic.
Oh, it was awesome.
But what about the picture quality? Was the Sony better than the Hitachi?
Well, I mean, in that situation, it was a fun way to end the challenge, wasn't it? But it's a difficult way, I think, to get any clarity on the quality of the two cameras. Far better is, you know, the domestic situation that we're most used to. And as we put the footage from the fun fair side by side on the screen now, I'm sure even though you're looking at it in standard definition, you can see the Sony's just about got the edge.
So the winner of this week's high-definition camcorder challenge is the Sony.
Yeah, if you're in the market for one of these ridiculously small high-definition camcorders, then you've got to go for the HDR SR7.